Hello, good morning everyone. I welcome you all today to the revision session of Unit 2. We will be discussing on the Unit 2 which is most related to learning and motivation in education. So when we say learning and motivation in education, there are so many processes and aspects involved in learning and motivation, which we will be discussing in this particular ಯೂನಿಟ್. ಸೊ ಕಲಿಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆ, ಹೇಗೆ ಕಲಿಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನು ಒಳಗೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಥವಾ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣಕ್ಕೆ ಬಳಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್. ಲೆಟ್ ಮಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಶೇರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್. All right. So as I told you, this is regarding learning and motivation in education. So behavioral approaches to learning. In this, we understood how behavioral approaches, especially operant conditioning approach, helped us in coming up with applied behavior analysis, which can be used in education in order to increase the desired behavior and decrease the undesirable behavior. So when we say applied behavior analysis, it means that we are trying to involve or apply the principles of operant conditioning to change human behavior. So the application of operant conditioning is seen in the classrooms, homes, business settings, hospitals, and other real world settings. Applied behavior analysis involves applying the principles of operant conditioning to change human behavior. The use of applied behavior analysis is important in education to increase desirable behavior and decrease undesirable behavior. ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ತನಾ ಉಪಗಮನದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ವರ್ತನವಾದದ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಕ್ರಿಯಾಪ್ರಸೂತ ಅನುಬಂಧನ ಕಲಿಕೆಯ ನಿಯಮಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಮನುಷ್ಯರ ವರ್ತನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳನ್ನ ತರೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಚರ್ಚೆ ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಯಾವಾಗ ನಾವು ಕ್ರಿಯಾಪ್ರಸೂತ ಅನುಬಂಧನ ಕಲಿಕೆಯ ನಿಯಮಗಳನ್ನ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳ ವರ್ತನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಯನ್ನ ತರುವ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರ ವರ್ತನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳನ್ನ ತರೋ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಪ್ಲೈಡ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಅನ್ವಯಿಕ ವರ್ತನ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Here we go with increasing desirable behaviors. How can we, increase desirable behaviors? 6 operant conditioning strategies can be used to increase a child's desirable behavior. Okay. So how we can make use of it? Firstly, we have to choose effective reinforcers, which must understand which kind of reinforcement is effective with what kind of children. Then make reinforcers contingent and timely. We should be planning when and how the reinforcement has to be given to the child. Select the best schedule of reinforcement. So usually variable interval schedule is the best schedule of reinforcement which we can use. Consider contracting. The child has to sign a contract saying that the child would study so much in the given particular time with the teacher. Use negative reinforcement effectively. If you are using negative reinforcement, that has to be used very effectively in the classroom setting. And use prompts and shaping. Prompts and shaping also can be used as an effective tool in order to mend the students' behavior. So ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನಿರೀಕ್ಷಿಸುವಂತಹ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಾಗಿ ನಾವು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಂದ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷಿಸುವಂತಹ ಹಿತಕರವಾದಂತಹ ವರ್ತನೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಸಬಹುದು ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನವನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ ಮಗುವಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನ ಬಹಳ ಪರಿಣಾಮಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಎರಡನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಪುನರ್ಬಲನವನ್ನ ನೀಡುವಂತಹ ಸಮಯ ಹಾಗೂ ನೀಡುವಂತಹ ರೀತಿಯನ್ನ ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಪುನರ್ಬಲನವನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ಅದು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಇಂಟರ್ವಲ್ ರಿಇನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಕನ್ಸಿಡರಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರ ಜೊತೆ ಒಂದು ಒಪ್ಪಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಈ ದಿನ ಇಷ್ಟನ್ನ ಕಲಿತೀನಿ, ಇಷ್ಟನ್ನ ಕಲಿತು ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಒಪ್ಪಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಕಾರಾತ್ಮಕವಾದಂತ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನವನ್ನ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಣಾಮಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿ ಬಳಸಬಹುದು. ಅದರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಂಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಶೇಪಿಂಗ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸನ್ನೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಮತ್ತು ಅವರು ಕಲಿಯುತ್ತಿರುವಂತ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನವನ್ನ ನೀಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋದ್ರ ಮೂಲಕ ಕೂಡ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿತವಾದ ವರ್ತನೆಯನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಸಬಹುದು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ decreasing undesirable behaviors. When teachers want to decrease children's undesirable behaviors, they can use the following options. Applied behavior analysis, Paul Alberto and Anne Trotman recommend using the following steps in this order. Use differential reinforcement, terminate reinforcement, remove desirable stimuli, and present aversive stimuli. So that means to say, if you have to decrease undesirable behavior in children, Paul Alberto and Anne Trotman, they are the applied behavior analysts. Excuse me. What they say is that we have to follow the 4 steps which they have given in order. First and foremost, we should use differential reinforcement with the student. If that doesn't work, then we have to terminate the reinforcement. We have to remove the reinforcement, which is called as extinction. And thirdly, we can remove the desirable stimuli. Okay. Or if all these 3 doesn't work, then naturally punishment has to be used. That is presenting the aversive stimuli. ನಾವು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅಹಿತಕರವಾದಂತ ವರ್ತನೆಯನ್ನ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ತಗ್ಗಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಅನ್ವಯಿಕ ವರ್ತನ ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣಾಕಾರರಾದ ಪಾಲ್ ಆಲ್ಬರ್ಟೋ ಮತ್ತು ಟ್ರಾಟ್ಮನ್ ರವರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 4 ಅಂಶಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಇದೇ ಅನುಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಳಸಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಬಳಸುವಂತ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನಗಳನ್ನ ಮೊದಲೇ ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಮಾಡಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತ ಪುನರ್ಬಲನಗಳನ್ನ ಬಳಸಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಈ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳ ಒಂದು ವರ್ತನೆಯನ್ನ ಸರಿಪಡಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಬಳಸಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟಿಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಪುನರ್ಬಲನ ಕೊಡೋದನ್ನ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರಿಂದಾನು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಬದಲಾಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮೂರನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅವರು ಕಲಿಯುವಂತ ವಾತಾವರಣದಿಂದ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂತ ಪ್ರಚೋದನೆಗಳನ್ನ, ಅವರು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡುವಂತ ಪ್ರಚೋದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಲಿಕಾ ವಾತಾವರಣದಿಂದ ತೆಗೆದುಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಕೌಟ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪನಿಷ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಯನ್ನ ಬಳಸಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. All right, now let us talk about social constructivist approaches to learning, that is teachers and peers as joint contributors to student learning. Scaffolding is the technique of changing the level of support over the course of a teaching session. In this, a more skilled person, a teacher or a more advanced peer of the child adjusts the amount of guidance to fit the student's current performance. So when I was talking to you about scaffolding in the previous sessions, I've given you the example of how we started learning a bicycle. So it is the same technique that we use. Okay. Slowly, the level of support that is being given will be changed over the course of the teaching session. A person who is more skilled than us will teach, that is, who is more skilled than the child will teach the child how to learn anything. And depending on the requirement, the support is given. So ಇದೊಂದು ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾಫೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ತಂತ್ರ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಸೆಷನ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ. ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸೈಕಲ್ ನ ಕಲಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೈಕಲ್ ಸವಾರಿ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ಕಲಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ ಕಲಿತ್ವಿ, ಆ ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾಫೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ತಂತ್ರ ಹೇಗೆ ಬಳಕೆ ಆಯ್ತು ಅನ್ನೋದು. Secondly, cognitive apprenticeship. Developmental psychologist Barbara Ragoff stresses that an important tool of education is cognitive apprenticeship. It's a technique in which an expert stretches and supports a novice learning or understanding and use of culture's skills. So basically, a person who knows very well about a particular aspect or a particular learning, tries to teach a person who doesn't know anything about it. This is called as cognitive apprenticeship. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸೊ ಇದು ಕಾಗ್ನಿಟಿವ್ ಅಪ್ರೆಂಟಿಸ್ಶಿಪ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ವಿಷಯದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಪಾರವಾದ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅವರು ಏನೂ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಅರಿವಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವಂತವರಿಗೆ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನ ಬೋಧಿಸೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಾಗ್ನಿಟಿವ್ ಅಪ್ರೆಂಟಿಸ್ಶಿಪ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟ್ಯೂಟರಿಂಗ್. Tutoring is basically a cognitive apprenticeship between an expert and a novice. Tutoring can take place between an adult and a child, or between a more skilled child and a less skilled child. Individual tutoring is an effective strategy that benefits many students, especially those who are not doing well in a subject. So when we say tutoring, basically it should, if it is one-to-one, it is more useful. That is what they say. Tutoring ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕಲಿಸೋದೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ನಾವು ಮುಖಾಮುಖಿಯಾಗಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿಕೊಡುವಂತಾದ್ರೆ ಆ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಗಮನ ಒಂದೇ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯ ಮೇಲಿದ್ದಾಗ ಆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯ ಕಲಿಕೆ ಉತ್ತಮವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕೋಆಪರೇಟಿವ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್, ಸಹಕಾರ ಕಲಿಕೆ. ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಸಹಕಾರ ಕಲಿಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಲಿಕೆ ಉತ್ತಮವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಗುಂಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ ಕಲಿಯುವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮವಿಶ್ವಾಸ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಆ ಇಡೀ ಸಮೂಹದ ಸೋಲು ಹಾಗೂ ಗೆಲುವಿಗೆ ನಾವೇ ಕಾರಣ ಆಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಸಹಕಾರ ಕಲಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬಳಸ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. So cooperative learning occurs when students work in small groups to help each other learn. Researchers have found that cooperative learning can be an effective strategy for improving achievement, especially when the following two conditions are met. So what are those two conditions? One is group rewards are generated. Some type of recognition or reward is given to the group so that group members can sense that it is in their best interest to help each other learn. Secondly, individuals are held accountable. Some method of evaluating a student's individual contribution, such as an individual quiz or report, needs to be used. This helps for individual accountability. Among the positive aspects of cooperative learning are increased interdependence and interaction with other students, enhanced motivation to learn, and improved learning by teaching material to others. All right, let's next move on to transfer of learning. Once the learning has happened, it has to be transferred to other learning settings or to other real life settings. So the transfer of learning refers to the transfer that occurs when a person applies previous experiences and knowledge to learn in a new situation or to solve problems in a new situation. ನಾವು ಕಲಿಕೆ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಕಲಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇತರೆ ಕಲಿಕಾ ವಾತಾವರಣಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಜ ಜೀವನದ ಒಂದು ಚಿತ್ರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಕಲಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ವರ್ಗಾಯಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಫ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್. ಹಲವಾರು ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಲಿಕೆಯ ವರ್ಗಾವಣೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ದ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ಸ್ ನಿಯರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್, ಫಾರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್, low road transfer, high road transfer, and further high road transfer is subdivided into forward reaching transfer and backward reaching transfer. Okay, when we say near transfer occurs when the classroom learning situation is similar to the one in which the initial learning took place. For example, near transfer occurs when students who have learned to type on a typewriter transfer the skill to typing on a computer keyboard. So this is the example for a near transfer. So let's see what far transfer is. Far transfer means the transfer of learning to a situation very different from the one in which the initial learning took place. For instance, if a student gets a part-time job in an architect's office and applies what he learned in geometry class to helping the architect analyze a spatial problem, which is different from any problem the student encountered in geometry class, then far transfer has occurred. Low road transfer occurs when previous learning automatically, often unconsciously, transfers to another situation. This occurs most often with highly practiced skills in which there is little need for reflective thinking. For example, when competent readers encounter new sentences in their native language, they read them automatically. So this is low road transfer. Next is high road transfer. High road transfer is conscious and effortful. Students consciously establish connections between what they learned in a previous situation and the new situation they now face. High road transfer is mindful that is, students have to be aware of what they are doing and think about the connection between contexts. High road transfer implies abstracting a general rule or principle from previous experience and then applying it to the new problem in the new context. So Salmon and Perkins, they subdivided high road transfer into two, that is forward reaching transfer and backward reaching transfer. Forward reaching transfer occurs when students think about how they can apply what they have learned to new situations. That is, from their current situation, they look forward to apply information to a new situation ahead. For forward reaching transfer to take place, students have to know something about the situations to which they will transfer learning. Backward reaching transfer occurs when students look back to a previous situation for information that will help them to solve the problem in a new context. So it's important for us to understand what's the importance and educational implications of transfer of training. ಕಲಿಕಾ ವರ್ಗಾವಣೆಯ ಒಂದು ಮಹತ್ವ ಏನು ಹಾಗೂ ಅದರ ಒಂದು ಅನ್ವಯಿಕತೆ ಏನು ಶೈಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ಎರಡು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು. ಒಂದು, ಕಲಿಕೆಯ ವರ್ಗಾವಣೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಾಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಪಠ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತೊಂದು, ಪಠ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಕಲಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಆ ಕಲಿಕಾ ವಿಧಾನ ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Some educational experts argue that the best way to ensure transfer is to teach it. They stress that transfer problems virtually are eliminated when teaching occurs in contexts where individuals need to perform. By preparing students so that the problems that are likely to encounter in a real life are at worst near transfer problems, the gap between students' present learning level and learning goals is significantly reduced. An appropriate curriculum is essential for maximum transfer. It is not the content of the area of study that matters much for maximum transfer, but it is the teaching method that matters. So curriculum and teaching method are the two important things that matters when maximum learning transfer has to happen. Now, let's move on to motivation to achieve. That is, we talk in terms of two important types of motivation, that is extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. ಕಲಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯ. ಕಲಿಯುವ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆ ಎರಡು ರೀತಿಯದ್ದಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಆಂತರಿಕ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಬಾಹ್ಯ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಹ್ಯ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆಗಿಂತಲೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಆಂತರಿಕ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಒತ್ತನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೀಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಬ್ಬ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗೆ ಆಂತರಿಕ ಅಭಿಪ್ರೇರಣೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿರುತ್ತೋ ಅವನಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮವಿಶ್ವಾಸ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ, ಅಭಿಕ್ಷಮತೆ ಕೂಡ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Extrinsic motivation involves doing something to obtain something else. That is, extrinsic motivation is often influenced by external incentives such as rewards and punishments. For example, a student may study hard for the test in order to get good marks or good grades in the course. So the students, who think about extrinsic motivation, this is how they only study for the sake of marks. Intrinsic motivation involves the internal motivation to do something for its own sake. For example, a student may study hard for a test because he or she enjoys the content of the course. There are four types of intrinsic motivation. One is self-determination and personal choice. So you need to be self-determined and you should make a choice of how you have to learn, and optimal experiences and flow, how best you can gain experience, learning experience, and how it could be easy for you to, how it could be helpful for you in order to achieve it. The interest regarding learning, and cognitive engagement and self-responsibility. So these are the four important things that we need to remember in intrinsic motivation. And we talk in terms of cognitive processes in motivation: attributions, mastery motivation and mindset, self-efficacy, goal setting, planning and self-monitoring, expectations, values and purpose. These are all the other cognitive processes that are involved in motivating the students to learn along with extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So first and foremost, when we say attribution is very important. That is, our students try to have a connection between, that is, cause and effect relationship. Because I have got good marks, what is the reason? I have got low marks, what is the reason? The child is able to understand, attribute the aspects of learning, and whenever they can concentrate on the task at hand, they can always be more successful. So, moving on to mastery motivation and mindset, what does that mean? Mastery motivation is the aspect in motivation where children can really do well even in challenging situations. For children with mastery motivation, for them, success is not important for them, but learning is important. Though they fail, they think that these failures are an opportunity for them to learn more, and they try to succeed, provided that they have a lot of self confidence, and they say learning is what is important to me and not success per se. And there are two important types of mindset when we talk of this. They talk in terms of the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Children who have fixed mindset, it is difficult. That is, they become more helpless. They try to have external locus of control and all that. People who have growth mindset, they have mastery motivation or mastery orientation in them. Next is self-efficacy. When we talk in terms of self-efficacy, it is more in terms of how effective one is when he or she is trying to do a task. And higher the self-efficacy, better the motivation. Lower the self-efficacy, lower the motivation. Then goal setting, planning, and self-monitoring. Any student should always have a goal that is set, okay? And they have to plan how to reach the goal. And for that, self-monitoring is very important. They should take self-responsibility and monitor on how they could do it. Expectations, values, and purpose. See, when we talk in terms of expectations, values, and purpose, it is more about once we are learning something, how that learning could be used personally as well as for the society, for the social benefit. So it's more important that through learning, it is important for us to develop good personality. Overall personality development should happen due to learning, and not just for the sake of being more, gaining more name and fame, or gaining more money. Okay. Lastly, we talk about students with achievement problems. When we talk about students with achievement problems, it is more in terms of how we tend to understand what type of problems do children face when they are trying to achieve something. Achievement problems can arise when students don't set goals, don't plan how to reach them, and don't adequately monitor their progress towards the goals. They also can arise when students are low achievers and have low expectations of success, try to protect their self-worth by avoiding failure, when they procrastinate, when they keep postponing things, and when they become more perfectionists, when they say, no, 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 this is how I need to do, otherwise I don't want to do anything. No, perfectionism is not that good, and become overwhelmed by anxiety. When students have a lot of anxiety issues, even then achievement problems are popped up, or when they become uninterested or alienated from school. So these are all the problems which are obstacles to achievement of students. Okay, let me stop sharing. So this was regarding Unit 2, that is learning and motivation. Let me end my session. Thank you.